All right, so let's talk about Amazon CloudFront CDN, the world's largest content distribution network, what a content distribution network is and why you should use it for an e-commerce store. So simply put, CDN stands for Content Distribution Network, and basically it's when the assets of an origin server, let's say an origin server would be your web hosting account. It's when you offload those assets to what's called an edge server. So by doing this, let's just use this as an example. This is where the origin server is, and this is the edge server. So if you could find a way to offload assets, so by assets, I'm talking about your images, media files, videos, CSS style sheets, JavaScript. These are all things that load on the client side of the website. So client side just means your browser, what people see when they interface with your website. If you can offload all of these things to an edge server, let's say a server that's proprietary to Amazon, right? That is optimized, a server that is optimized to handle those assets, those large assets, and then use an infrastructure. So a server infrastructure, right, across multiple regions in the world. So Amazon Edge servers or POP servers are in the United States. They're in Asia, they're in Europe. Okay, there's South Africa, there's Australia. And then the system will intelligently know where that user is coming from based on their IP address and other factors, and then show them the version of your website across all of these server locations, essentially Amazon data centers by region, right? That cover the entire world. So this makes your pages load faster, right? Because if all you did was have an origin server, let's say you have a web hosting account in the United States, quote unquote, or / origin server, that's what I mean by the term, and you didn't have a way to distribute those assets, okay, your images, your CSS files, okay, these are things that are loading on the client side. That could make your website load slower, especially if those users are coming, like, let's say across the country or across the world. So if you are doing something like worldwide sales, for instance, you'd benefit from a CDN tremendously, because then Amazon could show the version of your website closest to wherever that user is. So if that user, let's say, is located in Europe, Amazon could leverage its servers in a European data center. I know they have one in Frankfurt, London, those places, right? And will show the version of your website to that user who is closest to this POP server. Your images, your pages are going to load much faster. So why is this important for e-commerce? Well, in e-commerce, speed is of the essence. If you have a slow performing website, chances are that user is going to be bouncing to another page. So that other page could be the page of your competitor. It is very crucial that you get this part right. So this is why you'll see a lot of large websites, large and small, will utilize a CDN just to exclude that possibility. And by large websites, I'm talking about large e-commerce stores. CDN is commonplace. Okay, you cannot even build an infrastructure or a website without the CDN infrastructure for most of these big commercial e-commerce websites. And you should be doing the same, because remember, you're competing against them, okay? So it is important that you have, especially if you're using something like a shared web hosting environment, or even like a VPN resources are shared too. It is important that you have a way to distribute your assets by region to ensure that your page load times are efficient or sufficient for modern day. And typically we're looking at anything up to 2.5 to 5 seconds is ideal for load times. A CDN can help tremendously with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a CDN using Amazon CloudFront, and we're also going to be using a plugin that will help us interface with the Amazon CloudFront CDN, a service of AWS, and we're going to create an AWS account. If you don't have one already, I'll show you how to do that. So let's get started. All right, so there are steps. setting up a CDN is really 5 steps in AWS, Amazon Web Services. And if you don't know what any of this means, don't worry, I'll explain it all. So the first thing we're going to do is create an S3 bucket. Okay, S3 stands for Simple Storage Services, and bucket is just something colloquial, native to Amazon, the way Amazon names certain products, okay, and certain features of those products. So we're going to create an S3 bucket, basically a storage bin. Then we're going to create a user group in IAM. IAM stands for Identity Access Management. It is a service of AWS. It allows us essentially to create a bridge, or sort of a gap, an API bridge between 2 units of software. So in our case, WP Admin, which is the plugin we'll use, we'll get to that, can begin to manipulate our Amazon account using its associated programs and scripts, okay? And this will help to offload our images and our assets, this plugin will, to Amazon, the Amazon CloudFront service. Then we're going to create a user for that user group. We're going to connect our S3 bucket to our CloudFront distribution. CloudFront is the Amazon content delivery network, global content delivery network. And then, like I said, we're going to set up a WP Admin, which is a plugin, a CDN plugin, and we're going to configure it so that it can begin to carry out its functions, its important functions of offloading our images and assets to the Amazon CloudFront distribution network. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is type in your browser aws.amazon.com or just simply aws.com, and you'll be brought to this page here. So what is AWS? Simply put, AWS is a company, a subsidiary of Amazon that stands for Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services is a cloud computing platform, and it is the #1 cloud computing platform in the world. So cloud computing, if you don't understand what it is, you can look it up, but essentially think about it as a computer, okay, that you can use remotely, that handles and has a lot of different services. So the services that we're going to be using in our instance is a content distribution network provided by Amazon. So if you don't already have a AWS account, at the top right, click on sign into the console and click on create a new AWS account. I'll leave this link in the description. Now, once you click on create a new AWS account, you'll be brought to this page. You can just follow the prompts. It's pretty self-guiding and self-explanatory. So I'm already a AWS account user, account holder. I'm going to hit next. I'm just going to sign in. Now, when you first get to AWS, you're going to be brought to the console homepage. This is going to have vital statistics like your billing, your monthly usage, etc. Now, Amazon AWS is pay as you go. There is no monthly fee per se to use any of these services. Okay, it's on demand. So you pay for essentially what you use, and then you're billed at the end of the month for the balance. So as you can see, I'm using S3, Simple Storage Service. We'll tell you what that is in a minute. And I'm hosting something like 200 gigabytes of content, and it's only costing me 81 cents. Another thing I have to tell you about Amazon S3 and Amazon CloudFront is it's very cost effective. This is why Amazon Web Services is the #1 cloud computing platform. They don't charge an arm and a leg to use these important services. So this is how they gained their market share. And if you think about it, really, I think it's brilliant, okay? Because some of these services aren't even offered on other cloud computing services. And if they are, they cost them way more money. So Amazon is the leader in the space for a reason. Not just that, but just the flexibility with pricing and also the amount of services they offer. I mean, every service you could possibly look for in a cloud computing platform is here. Now, when you first get to your console homepage, it's going to be empty if you're signed up with a new account. Okay, so it's important to use and make use of this search feature. So we're going to simply type S and 3, and we're going to get to S3. Okay, S3 is simple, stands for Simple Storage Service. So basically, it's a computer, a server that just stores information that we can readily access. So we need to have a method to offload our images, our assets, our CSS files, our JavaScript files, our videos somewhere. And S3 can store that information for us. And then we're going to connect S3, our images, our assets, to CloudFront. When we connect our images and assets to CloudFront, we can then distribute those assets. And the plugin is managing all of this. Okay, this little plugin, the script that we're going to download for WordPress, is managing all of this, how to communicate with S3 and CloudFront. It's essentially the mitigator. It is the referee in all of this, okay, to put it in layman's terms. So we search S3, and we're going to click on S3. And we're going to create what's called an S3 bucket, okay? That's what Amazon likes to call their storage container buckets. Makes sense, right? So we're going to create a bucket name. Now in this field, it has to be unique, but it cannot contain any spaces and special characters. So I'll give you an example. So the bucket name for this is Demo Store Content. The region that is going to be in is in the United States, East 1. So this right here, let me just make sure. Okay, no spaces. Okay, no spaces. Okay, now let's move on. Now that we have our bucket name, AWS region, you want to choose the region that's closest to your origin server point. So if you're using a shared hosting plan with another company, and let's say it's based in the United States, chances are their data center is in the United States. So choose the AWS region that is closest to your origin server point. If you're in Europe or you're in Germany, let's say, you want to choose the AWS and your service provider. Okay, keep in mind, not where you're located, but where your service provider is located. Okay, choose the data center, the region that's closest. So let's say hypothetically you're in Germany and you're using a German web hosting company. You want to choose something like Frankfurt, okay? Object ownership, ACL is disabled, that's fine. Now this is important. We don't want to hide our assets because they need to be distributed. So we want to make sure we deselect this. We don't want to block public access to our files. Okay, and then you want to just put here that you acknowledge the current settings might result in this bucket and the objects within becoming public. Amazon just wants to make sure you're aware of that. Don't be afraid of this. This is fine. This is the only way for the service to actually work effectively for our use case. Bucket versioning, you don't have to do anything there. Tags, you don't have to do anything there. Default encryption, you don't have to do anything there. This is important, however. Let's scroll up. Actually, yep, there's nothing else we need to do. That's for CloudFront. Thinking ahead of time, sorry. And we're just going to create this bucket. Now, when we create this bucket, you're going to see the access. The objects can be public. That's fine. And then we have our name, our bucket name, Demo Store Content. So step one is complete. We created an S3 bucket, and you should know what a bucket is, what an S3 means. So let's create a user group using the Amazon Identity Access Management tool, or service, rather. So again, when you first come to your console homepage, you're not going to see any of these things listed because you have a brand new account. Okay. So if you don't, and if you've used AWS before and you have an AWS account, that's fine. So we're going to go here. We're going to type IM. We're going to click on IM. And once we get here, you're going to see that we have user groups, users, roles, policies. We want to go to user groups, and then we want to create the group. Okay, so once we create the group, we want to name the group. So I'm going to name it the same as the bucket with a twist. So I'm going to just do that, and then I'm going to, in this particular case, we can use special characters, alphanumeric characters, It's less lenient, let's just put it that way. Okay, so I put underscore and IM just to have the difference between the names so I don't get it confused with my bucket name, S3 bucket name. Now, we don't need to add any users just yet. We will separately. But this is important. We need to attach a permissions policy. So permissions policy is basically granting the user, in our case, our application, the ability to control certain aspects of our account. So we're going to give this particular application WP admin, and again, we'll walk through and I'll tell you what all of this means if you're a little confused now. We're going to give our application administrative access. So as you can see, there are close to 39 pages of permission policies. Basically, it's code that is telling the script, so in our case, an application, what access it should be granted. So we're going to give it administrative access. And to do that, we're just going to search because there's so many policies here. So as you can see, we're going to grant this administrative access after searching for it. Remember, if you don't search for it, you're going to have to go through pages and pages and pages to find this. But this is what you need to choose, administrator access. Once you're done with that, you're going to scroll down to the bottom of the page and you're going to hit create group. Now, this is loading. You're not going to find any users here because we haven't assigned users yet. So just go by this, that the group has been created. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add users to the group. And that takes us to step 3. So we're going to go here and we're going to go users. We're going to add users. And we're going to name our user. So in our case, we're going to call our user the following. So again, this is another one of those fields where you can use special characters. Don't go too crazy though. So demo store Hawk Tennis Pro, which is what the name is, the prefix is for our, both for our IM and for our S3. And then I just put underscore WP admin for the name of the plugin. Okay. So when you're adding like multiple users, let's say in the future, you know what this is about. Okay. This is the plugin for our CDN project here. So the next important thing is to select the AWS credential type, and this application needs programmatic access. You don't need to give it password access, but you need to give it programmatic access. Without programmatic access, it will not work. Now we're coming to the user aspect of adding the user. We simply just need to check this. We need to add this user to our group. So in this case, this is our group that we just created in IM. Now we click on set permission boundary. You don't need to do anything there. You can hit next. You can hit next for review. You don't need to add tags. That's a, something that is just another way to organize your users. You don't need to do anything like that. Next review. As you can see, this is a summation of everything you created, and then we're going to create the user. So this is a very, very important step because of the secure nature of just AWS generally speaking, and part of why AWS is such a market leader is because the layers of security at each step for each service. Okay, so Amazon prides itself on that. So this is the reason why they only issue this key one time. So you should download the comma separated value CSV for this, because this will contain your credential, and leave this page open because we're going to need it to be able to configure the WP admin plugin script that will allow us to offload our images and our assets to our AWS S3 and CloudFront distribution. Okay, so we're going to leave this open and we're going to download it. just leave this page open. So this completes step number 3. So we're going to open AWS again. I'm going to right click, okay, anywhere on the page. I'm going to right click here. Actually, let me go here. Let me just right click on the logo and open a new AWS Management Console page right here in a new tab. It's important that you don't do it in the same tabs because we need this page open for now. If you're wondering why I'm giving you my access key and my secret access key credentials, it's obviously this is a demonstration and I will be obviously deleting these access keys for my own security. So don't worry, I'm not publishing to the world to come and take my information. Let's get started now. Let's go to CloudFront. Again, when you first come to the console homepage, again, you're not going to see all of the recently visited services on the console page. Okay, so this is CloudFront's landing page. Okay, this is AWS CloudFront. Okay, so this is where we create our content distribution network. Okay, this is where we create our distribution, essentially. So we're going to create a distribution, like so at the top right, and we're going to select our bucket. Okay, so remember that bucket we created, demo store content. Well, it has a URL. Okay, this is the special URL that where our images and our assets from our website are going to pass. Okay, and deliver to the Amazon Edge servers by region. Okay. So we want to take note of this link. And we want to copy it and we want to paste it somewhere safe. So we're going to select our bucket. There's nothing we need to do in the origin path. There's nothing we need to do with the name. We want to make sure that the origin access is public. Okay, our CDN distribution is public. There's nothing we need to do here. There's some advanced stuff, but we do want to make sure that this is selected. Use all edge locations for the best performance. Okay, so this means that you can have worldwide traffic, and Amazon will show the version of your website, the way it is, okay, to closest to that user's location. And we talked about how these things are done in the first illustration. So we're going to create the distribution. Now, this part here can take anywhere from a few minutes to 5 minutes. In certain instances, I have waited 10 minutes for this. So the reason why is because Amazon is having to create this distribution domain name and then propagate it across the World Wide Web. So that doesn't take 30 seconds. This can take a few minutes. Okay, so we'll wait for this to finish, and then we will proceed with the next step. All right, so as you can see, that took a few minutes, magic of video editing. So as you can see, this was last modified. This was created. This CDN distribution that we just created is now active and it's enabled. So the next step, since we have all of that, is since we connected our S3 bucket to our CloudFront distribution, it is time to install the WordPress plugin, WP Admin, the CDN plugin, and we will set up and configure it additionally. So to do that, we're just going to go to plugins. Where is that? Let me refresh this page. Here it is. We're going to go to plugins and we're going to go to add new. Now, once we go to plugins and we go add new, we're going to type WP admin. We're going to hit enter. We're going to type actually WP admin CDN. Should be here somewhere. Sometimes this WordPress plugin doesn't search. The search can end up with some strange results. But as you can see, this is nowhere here. So we're going to go and we're going to do things the hard way. We're going to go and we're going to search for this WP admin CDN plugin. So we're going to come here and we're just going to copy this. We're going to go back to our WordPress installation and we're going to paste, and it should come up now. Okay. So here it is, WP admin AWS CDN. So we're going to install now. And then we're going to activate. So the plugin is now activated. We're going to scroll down to the bottom of the page where this is located. And we're just going to click on, after we hover over it, WP admin CDN. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to disable the CDN. We're going to reload the page. Actually, we have to enter in some credentials first. So we're going to activate the CDN. It doesn't know what the CDN is right now. So we're going to activate our CDN. Well, actually, yeah, I understand what's happening now. We're going to reload this page. Because I installed this plugin before, it was using some old credentials from another CloudFront distribution. So typically when you get this plugin, it's going to look just like this. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to enter in, remember we have this page open. We're going to enter in our access ID in this field. And then we're going to enter our secret ID in this field. We're just going to move this up here. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste it here. Cache policy you can leave disabled. TLS version you can leave that the way it is. Compress objects, sure. Image compression, make things even faster. Compress basically to condense, not necessarily only images, but to condense certain things to make things even run more efficiently. The price class you can leave this default US, Canada, and Europe. The domain hosted in a subfolder. So you don't need to do anything here. I would like to use a custom CDN domain. You don't need to do any of that there. But now this is we're going to ask this to list our distributions. We can also create a distribution from here. So if this fails to list our distribution, that means that our access key and our secret key are not working. Because remember, this is connecting to our AWS account using an API. So in this case, the Amazon API, which is made possible through IM. So let's list the distributions first. No distribution found. So we can create our distribution. Okay. So let's create our distribution. So this created successfully a distribution. So this is going to take some time to work because remember, so let's look at Amazon CloudFront right now. And when we refresh the page and we look at our distributions, we see that by giving it IAM access, it has already configured our AWS CDN. Okay. And this was created by the plugin. As you can see, the plugin is saying configured using AWS CDN plugin. So we know there's an API connection. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and use the one that the plugin generated for us. So we're going to go back and we're going to reload this page. Okay. So as you can see, we have to activate the CDN. Now, before we do that, this plugin has options where we can exclude certain pages, like the blog, cart, checkout. I'm not going to do that because, for instance, like the checkout page is handling the checkout. So all the assets, the images, the banners on the checkout page are going to be included in a page to exclude. So you don't want to do that. You just want to include everything. So we're going to activate the CDN by clicking on this button. So as you can see, CDN is being deployed. Try to activate after some time. So this is Amazon. This is, remember, it takes some time for AWS to propagate these new URLs. So we'll have to monitor this situation. And one thing you can do is you can just keep refreshing the page after like a few minutes, or it can take some time, and then hit activate again. So when we activate this CDN, you'll see, and one way you can test it is to actually go on the website. And if you copy this image address, you'll see once the CDN is activated, you'll see that the URLs will change. So we'll give this some time, and we'll let Amazon and the plugin do its thing, and it should take a few minutes. So as you can see, the CDN is activated. After we hit the activate button, as you can see, it is activated. So Amazon has finished propagating this URL here. We can reload the page. Okay. So this CDN is now currently active. So we're going to go and we're going to visit the website, and we can refresh the page. So here's an example of a CDN. As you can see, we copy the image address, paste it. You can see it's using now the Amazon. All of these images are being loaded on an Amazon web server. Okay. And we talked about how a CDN works, as you can see. So this is why WordPress is such a great tool. It's one of the largest open source projects on this planet, and it gives you the flexibility to do just about anything. There's a plugin for it. Like, remember those old school Apple commercials advertising and promoting the iPhone? There's an app for that, right? There's an app for everything on WordPress. So this is why it's so popular and why it's used, the open source nature of it, the plugin architecture. So as you can see, when we go to our media, all our CSS, everything is loaded now onto the CDN. So when I click on any link, as you can see, this has even though this is showing the WordPress URL, when we actually go to the front page, remember we said most of the client side things are loaded on Amazon's web server just for the speed tests, right? When we trying to do on the client side rather, we'll do a speed test. But as you can see, we'll copy this image address, and you can come here and you can see that this is an actual Amazon AWS link. Okay, let's do that again. So if I copy this image address for this logo, copy image address, you'll see that it is a link that is pointing to an Amazon Edge server. Okay, so that logo and all of the content from the media library, the CSS styles, are all loaded on the Amazon server. So this is going to help us offload a lot of the things that can make client-side load times slow, like images, right? So client-side meaning what the user sees on the browser. So this is how you set up a CDN for a WordPress website using Amazon Web Services and the WP Admin AWS CDN.